Chapter 3. Arrested. Harry looked up from his desk to see who had just cleared their throat. Before him stood a man in later years with a young girl of 9 or 10 years old. The girl was clearly a muggle, but the man could have passed for a wizard from a distance. Close to, however, he didn't feel magical. "Officer Aura Potter?" the man inquired. "Hello," Harry replied, out of the habit of good manners. Then, "You're muggles." "Yes, the man started to explain. "You can't be in here," Harry interrupted. "It's not possible. Muggles can't get in." "And yet," the man sighed, "here we are." The young girl looked exasperated at the man. "I don't think you understand," Harry explained. "There are powerful charms to prevent muggles going undetected. You can't get in here without setting off alarms. How did you get in?" "We came in through the telephone box out in the street," the girl clarified. "I'm Lydia Ward, and this is my uncle, Ambrose." Harry suppressed a smile and stood to look through the window of his side office into the open office area outside. Luckily, Ron was close at hand, and Harry beckoned him over to his room. Ron loped over to them, came through the door and smiled, with his eyebrows raised. "Yeah?" he asked. "Ron," Harry frowned, "could you escort these guests to one of our interview rooms and stay with them there? I have to see the minister about this. They're muggles." "Oh, wow," Ron reacted. Of course." Ron turned to Ambrose and Lydia. "If you'd please follow me." They left Harry's office and watched as Harry turned one way and left the office area via the door to the reception desk. Ron then turned the opposite way and ushered the two interlopers between the desks and deeper into the office. They reached a door in the wall at the further side, and Ron guided them through. A corridor with dark tiled walls and a wooden floor lay beyond, with doors to either side. They stopped at a door on the left, and Ron tapped the steel-grey doorknob with his wand. The door opened. "Please step inside," he said, sounding apologetic. They complied. Inside the interview room was a table and a few chairs, and little else. The walls were a light grey, the ceiling white. At the far side was a window, with a view over lush green pastures. Hardly what either of the muggles would have expected to see from an office in central London. Ron waved them towards the chairs and asked, "Would you like a cup of tea or something?" "Yes, please," they answered together, taking their seats. "2 cups of tea, if you please," Ambrose clarified. "My name's Ron," Ron said. "My supervisor's Harry Potter," Ambrose finished. "Yes, we are aware of his station. My name is Ambrose, and my supervisor here is Lydia." The girl, Lydia, smiled, sitting on her hands, with her head tilted to one side. "Are we under arrest?" Ron frowned and scratched his ear. "I don't think you've done anything wrong. We just need to know why, how—" His voice tailed off. "I think we can explain," her uncle Ambrose said. "May I?" He indicated his briefcase. Ron nodded his permission, and the girl's uncle opened the case smoothly and deliberately. He seemed careful not to give the aura any reason to react. Ambrose withdrew a diary from inside the case and laid it on the table. As he did so, Ron suddenly remembered his manners, waved his wand and produced 2 cups of tea. Lydia bounced in her seat and took 1 cup. Ron set the other cup down within Ambrose's reach. "We ventured here to show this to Aura Potter. It belongs to a neighbour of mine. It mentions Harry Potter and describes how to get into the ministry." "And does it tell you how to fool our defences?" Ron asked. "Well, no," Ambrose admitted. "It might be magical," Lydia suggested. "It might have got us in." The 2 adults looked at her. "A splendid point," Ambrose smiled. There was a rap on the door, and it swung open. Harry was there, accompanied by a tall, impressive man in African-style robes of many colours. "Hello," the taller man said in a deep, unhurried voice. "My name is Kingsley Shacklebolt." "You are the Minister of Magic, I believe," Ambrose said, rising to his feet. "Indeed I am," he admitted. his mouth touched with a smile and his brow with a frown. "How is it that you know this, might I ask?" "I was explaining to the Aura," he indicated Ron, to whom Shacklebolt nodded in greeting, "that we came into possession of this diary, which explains a lot about your world, the world of witches and wizards." "And that includes how to get past the anti-muggle defences of the Ministry?" Kingsley asked. "No, it does not," Ambrose frowned. "It explains where the entrance may be found, and the purpose of the Ministry of Magic. It also mentions Aura Potter as being someone of whom the diarist needs to be especially wary." "That's why we brought the diary here," Lydia chimed in. "And I think the diary's what got us in." The minister turned to the two Auras. "We'll check it out thoroughly, of course, but I don't feel anything obviously enchanted about it," Harry said, turning the diary over in his hands. "And whose diary is it?" Shacklebolt inquired. Ambrose and Lydia spent some time describing what they knew of the diary's history and that of its owner. Ron produced a plate of biscuits as they told of the carer's disappearance and the father's and grandmother's deaths, and of how the son appeared to have fled from the police. They described what the contents they could read had told them, and how the diary entries gradually sank into runes and obscure diagrams. All the while, the minister and the Auras passed the diary between themselves, flicking through the pages, or occasionally tapping it with a wand, in search of any other secrets it might be concealing. "The last thing the diary talks about that I was able to read," Ambrose told them, "is the possibility of transferring magical powers to ordinary people. Muggles, as you would call them." Lydia sat up straight. "There is mention," Ambrose continued, "of some form of ritual to achieve this, which is described in what he calls the grimoire. That, I believe, is an old term for a book of magic. It is all rather melodramatic, but, were it true, it could put the figurative cat amongst the proverbial pigeons." The minister, now seated at the table with the others, leaned forward and steepled the tips of his fingers together. He addressed the two Auras. "I hope I do not need to point out that the possibility of giving magical powers at will to Muggles could have serious consequences in the current climate." Harry and Ron assured him that they understood the sensitivity of the situation. Lydia looked from one to the other. Ambrose smiled mildly. Kingsley addressed the two visitors. "No offence is meant to either of you, but there has always been a slight tension between our two communities, between the magical and the Muggle. That is why we try to keep separate. Things have been more strained than ever in recent years. It is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain our secrecy. That has led to an undercurrent of resentment towards Muggles in certain corners of our community. There are those who seek to exploit that resentment for political power. If they were to find out about this possibility," he sighed. "Quite so," Ambrose nodded. "A clash between the Muggle and magical worlds would not, I imagine, be in either's interests. We Muggles are no strangers to the ideas of a few seeking to cause chaos for everyone else, so that they might personally benefit, I assure you." "I am glad you understand," Kingsley smiled. "I wonder if you would be prepared to assist us for a while. You know the background, and you know the young man who wrote this diary. A few days should suffice." Lydia bounced in her chair as Ambrose turned to her. "It seems my colleague here is keen to help," Ambrose grinned. "We will do everything we can. We have accommodation booked for a few nights, and we're due to take the train home on Wednesday." "They can stay with Ginny and me," Harry suggested. "I'll cancel their hotel and train tickets." "Excellent," Kingsley pronounced. "That should work well.